Single mom, safe suburb, I thought. A camera under my car proved otherwise. She's an unfit mother, my ex's fiancé claimed. Now she's facing jail. I'm Rachel Donovan. I share a home with my daughter, Emma, who's 8, in a calm, suburban area of Denver. I selected this calm location, a little ways from the Washington Park area, not only because it's close to Emma's school, but also because I thought its tree-lined streets would be the ideal place for a child to grow up. As the sun shines into our living room, I'm doing my yoga routine and planning my day in my head. Weekends don't have the hurried feel of weekdays. Emma gets to sleep in a bit longer on the weekends. Gazing at my daughter's calm, sleeping face in her room, I often think about my life. My job as an accountant at a big accounting firm is going well. I consistently keep my brown hair, which falls to my shoulders, well-styled, and I never skip my yoga sessions 3 times a week to stay in shape. My organized and dependable personality has been a real asset, both at work and as a mom. But sometimes, this desire to be perfect isn't helpful. It likely played a part in my divorce. While our 3-bedroom apartment isn't huge, it has plenty of space for Emma and me. The living room walls display pictures from Emma's ballet performances, and the sheet music for her piano lessons sits carefully on the shelves. These calm weekend mornings are the times I value most. "Good morning, Mom," Emma's voice calls out as I'm sitting quietly on my yoga mat. My daughter, who has my brown hair and big blue eyes from her dad, is always full of life and very active. Ballet is her favorite activity, and she gets excited for the 2 lessons she has each week. Besides that, she also has piano lessons once a week, though ballet is definitely where her heart lies. She looks exactly like a little pixie when she's in her dance clothes. Just watching her makes me feel so happy and content. "Good morning, Emma," I say. "Don't forget we're going to the store today for your ballet recital." "I know," she replies. "We're going to look at the pink leotard, aren't we?" I ask. "I really want to visit the store the teacher told us about." Emma's eyes gleam with anticipation. Her smiling face reminds me of her father, Thomas. He's got to be proud of how Emma's doing with her ballet lessons, too. I first met Thomas when we were in college. I was in the economics department's library trying to find a book about accounting. He now holds a middle management position at an IT firm. He's a tall, neat guy who wears glasses. He's just as detail-oriented and dedicated to his work as I am, even though he sometimes struggles to make a decision. Even so, we usually find common ground regarding Emma's education. We had 8 years of a calm marriage, but over time, we drifted away from each other. His work-focused priorities and our different outlooks became more and more obvious. Late nights spent at work, working on weekends, and the possibility of a job transfer came up. After much talking things over, we chose to get a divorce, but for Emma's benefit, we have a friendly relationship. Even now, we can sit side by side with a smile at school events. Although we share custody, I'm mainly the one who cares for her. I'm the one who primarily takes care of Emma. Thomas consistently provides child support and shares the expenses for Emma's extracurricular activities. He consistently attends his bi-monthly visits and school functions. I was aware that co-parenting after a divorce could be difficult, but I feel we're handling things pretty well in this aspect of our lives. However, a year back, Thomas started seeing a new woman. Her name is Pamela Shepard. She's a luxury real estate agent. With her impeccable makeup, stylish attire, and designer labels, she gives off the impression of someone sophisticated when you first see her. From what I gather, she's very successful, dealing with upscale properties in the Cherry Creek area. But occasionally I get a sense of her controlling personality and a need for perfection, and that makes me nervous. Specifically, I'm uncomfortable with how she interacts with Emma. "Mom, what are we having for breakfast?" Emma's voice pulls me out of my thoughts. We've made a habit of making pancakes for breakfast on the weekends. I really enjoy cooking, and there's nothing that makes me happier than seeing my daughter smile. As I'm standing in the kitchen, the air is filled with the wonderful smell of maple syrup. "Yes, and I'll add some blueberries today. But first, did you get dressed and brush your teeth?" "Yes, all done." Listening to Emma's answer, I go over what's planned for today. We'll go shopping at Creekside Mall this afternoon, and then I'll take Emma to her piano lesson and then pick her up afterward. Just a typical weekend routine. At that specific moment, I had no clue that this routine day was about to be thrown off by something I didn't see coming. The Denver sky was shrouded in fog this morning. Looking out the window, a gentle autumn wind caused the curtains to move slightly. I was in the kitchen flipping pancakes when I peeked out. It was just your average, quiet morning. From the kitchen, I noticed my neighbors walking their dogs and going for their morning runs. After eating, Emma was busy with her piano practice. It was a chop and waltz. Although she wasn't quite flawless yet, observing my daughter's focused expression filled me with happiness. I still had some time before our shopping trip to the mall, but I'm a bit of a planner, so I started to get ready early. I took a shower and then put on my everyday simple makeup. I used a subtle blush and a neutral eyeshadow. My look is the same on the weekends. I chose a navy blazer, a white blouse, and beige slacks. Emma had put together her own outfit as well, since she was really enthusiastic about the ballet recital shopping. "Mom, is the store open already?" She asked from the sofa, probably for the 100th time. She kept thumbing through her ballet magazine, looking at it on her lap. "Not yet, but it'll be just right after we have lunch." I responded, smiling at her eagerness. I loved this small bit of excitement and expectation. Nothing can touch your soul the way a child's innocent happiness does. We got to Denver Creekside Mall at 2 p.m. The fall sunshine reflected intensely off the building's glass. The mall was crowded, especially with families, as it always is on weekends. I saw young parents with strollers, kids from grade school walking hand in hand with their grandmas, and teens out shopping together. Then Emma tugged on my hand, pulling me toward the ballet store. The store presented a wide variety of leotards. The wall was completely covered in colorful costumes, ranging in shades from pale pink to a rich burgundy. Tutus and point shoes were artfully arranged. It was just like something out of a fairy tale. Emma's expression was absolutely filled with amazement. This was a special time for her, picking out her recital outfit. "Mom, what do you think of this pink leotard?" Emma asked, holding up a pale pink one delicately decorated with tiny sequins on the chest. The material felt amazing, with a gentle gleam when the light hit it. "It's perfect on you," I told her. "I'm really looking forward to the recital." I gave her a genuine smile as my daughter came out of the dressing room. Watching her spin in front of the mirror, she truly resembled a little dancer. Her dark hair was flying around her, and her blue eyes were shining with happiness. After we finished shopping, Emma wanted to go to the ice cream place. Normally, I'm careful about how many sweets she has, but today was an exception. I believed it was important to share these little victories and moments of happiness together as mother and daughter. The shop was filled with wonderful smells, and the vibrant display of ice cream immediately grabbed the attention of kids. "Mom, I want to show this to Dad. I think he'll like it," Emma said while she was enjoying her vanilla ice cream. Little drips of ice cream fell from her spoon onto the table. "Of course, let's show him next time we see him." I'm certain Thomas would be thrilled to see how much our daughter has grown. Lately, our connection had been smooth, and he consistently helped with Emma. The time was 4:30 in the afternoon. It was time for me to go back to the house. We started walking towards Block B in the underground parking structure, carrying our bags from shopping. The vibrant sunshine above transitioned to Florida, with its particular lighting creating blue-tinged shadows on the concrete walls. The impersonal feel that always comes with these parking structures surrounded us. It was then that I got a bad feeling about the situation. As we got nearer to our vehicle, I saw a guy dressed in dark clothing, hidden behind it, crouching down. He was muscular, sporting a baseball cap pulled down far over his eyes, along with a black hoodie and jeans. Because I was automatically alarmed, I stopped in my tracks immediately. My gut was telling me something was off. I grabbed Emma's shoulder right away, calling out, "Wait." I instantly brought her to a standstill. I could feel the heat from Emma's tiny body in my hand. The man must have seen us since he stood up abruptly. I think our eyes connected for just a second. Intense eyes under thick eyebrows. However, he didn't say a word and rapidly exited. His footsteps reverberated throughout the parking garage, eventually dying down completely. The sound echoed, and those few seconds until it stopped felt like forever. "What do you think that guy was up to?" I could hear the worry in Emma's voice. Her little hand tightly held onto the bottom of my blouse. "Emma, stay here. Mom is going to take a look," I told her. I moved my daughter behind a nearby concrete column, and I let her hold the bag from the toy store. Although I attempted to keep my voice even, my heart was pounding. I carefully glanced around the vehicle, my high heels making an unsettling noise on the ground. Something little was visible, fastened beneath the back bumper. I got down low to get a better view, and it was clearly a camera. It was black and compact, resembling the kind professionals use. The lens reflected a bit of light. My pulse began to race. My hands were trembling, yet I promptly pulled out my cell phone and called 911. The time until I heard the operator's voice seemed forever. My fingers felt numb. 911, what's the nature of your emergency?" I described what was happening as calmly as I could. I gave them the Creekside Mall parking garage's location, the sketchy person's appearance, and how I found the camera. Trying hard to keep my voice from wavering, I gave them all the information I could think of. The operator told me that police were on their way right away and to stay put without disturbing the car. I glanced at Emma, and she was staring at me with a worried look. The excitement we'd felt earlier about the ballet recital felt like a far-off thing at this point. Under the severe glare of the parking garage's lights, I held my daughter close. I could feel her little body shaking just a bit. Waiting for the police, all sorts of ideas were going through my head. Why did they pick on my car? Who was doing this? More than anything, how could I make certain that Emma was safe? As a mom, it was my duty to protect my daughter from this situation. But how was I supposed to do that? I was fighting off a wave of panic and really tried to stay calm. As the overhead lights occasionally sputtered, we stood there, anticipating the police's arrival. That pink leotard stuffed in the shopping bag felt so incredibly wrong given this bizarre scenario. Those good times we had just a few hours back felt like something from another world. Exactly at 5 p.m., 2 police cruisers showed up. Beneath the stark glare of the parking garage's lights, officers in uniform swiftly got out. Emma held on to me, watching everything with her eyes wide open. "Mrs. Donovan, I'm Detective Martin from the Denver Police." A detective, who looked to be around his late 40s, walked over with a pleasant demeanor. Behind him came a young female officer. "This is the camera we're talking about." Detective Martin thoroughly inspected the back end of the vehicle. He used his gloved hand to point out where the camera had been. The officer's colleague took pictures of the scene from lots of different perspectives. Each flash created blue-tinged shadows on the walls of the parking garage. "Let's get your daughter somewhere safe." She would go along with Emma. The female officer gave Emma a warm smile, but my daughter wouldn't let go of my hand, and I understood. "Emma, everything will be all right. Mom will be there." I crouched down to her level, holding her tiny, shaky hand tightly. The officers dealt with the crime scene with impressive speed. They asked for video footage and collected information from people who'd been shopping nearby. I provided a detailed description of the person who looked suspicious. A baseball cap worn low, a black hoodie, and around 5'11", give or take. "This is a really advanced camera." The tech guy looking over the evidence said something. "It can pinpoint its location with GPS and it's trackable in real time." That statement sent a shiver down my back. Someone had been keeping tabs on us. The idea turned my stomach. Detective Martin, aka Mrs. Donovan, gave me a serious look. "The person who did this will surely return to get the camera. Do you want to arrange a sting tonight?" The detective's suggestion was straightforward. We'd move the car to a Walmart and start watching. Emma would be somewhere secure while I sat in the car, supervised by the police. If the person showed up, they'd arrest them right away. But isn't that risky? My voice gave away how worried I was. "Don't worry. Plenty of officers would be watching the whole time and we can react quickly. Unless we catch them, you won't be rid of this fear." I reflected on what the detective had said. He was right. If we let them get away, they could try to hurt us in other ways. For Emma's sake, we had to settle this now. "I get it, I'll help." I called my mom and filled her in. Luckily, she jumped at the chance to assist. She agreed to watch Emma and backed me up in my decision. "Mom, I'm scared," Emma said quietly as we said goodbye. "It's going to be okay. It will be over soon. Mom will grab you in the morning." Even though I tried to act tough, I could feel my voice shaking. At 10 p.m., the Walmart parking lot was nearly deserted with only a couple of other cars around. My vehicle was positioned right beneath a streetlight. The shifting light made the shadows dance in a spooky way. Law enforcement cruisers were stationed a ways off, continuously listening to the radio to stay informed. I was incredibly on edge just sitting in the car. The motor was turned off, yet I'd left the ignition key inside in case I needed to make a fast getaway. The emergency transmitter, which I'd borrowed from the police, was sitting on the front passenger seat. That streetlight was swaying a bit. The parking lot was completely silent. There was a strange stillness, which is often the case in parking lots late at night. From time to time, I'd make out the sound of vehicles passing in the distance or hear the sound of people talking. But once those noises faded, the strange silence returned. Suddenly, I saw something in my rearview mirror. Someone was approaching, heading straight toward my car. It was a guy, dressed in dark clothing. He was wearing a baseball cap pulled down low. The same outline as that suspicious person from earlier today. I was holding my breath as I tightly held the transmitter in my shaky hands. My heart was racing wildly. The only thing I could do was remain motionless. Slowly, the man's footsteps came closer and closer to the car. His shoes on the pavement seemed incredibly loud. After that, the guy bent down behind my vehicle. He was trying to get to the camera. Right then, the headlights of all those waiting police vehicles all of a sudden lit up. The parking lot became extremely bright. Numerous police officers ran toward him with their guns aimed. The man made a brief attempt to run away, but they got him pretty quickly. From my vantage point in the vehicle, I observed everything unfold, completely bewildered. My hands just wouldn't stop trembling. Nevertheless, the shake stemmed more from the relief of its conclusion rather than terror. Detective Martin walked over to my car. Although his face was serious, it was also strangely comforting. "Mrs. Donovan," he said, "I'm relieved that you're unharmed. We have the suspect in custody. You can unwind now." I offered a small nod. But I wondered, was this truly over? Who was this individual, and why was I the target? My mind was flooded with questions. Still, at that instant, I was consumed by the thought of seeing Emma again. Numerous police vehicle lights cast a glow over the Walmart parking area. The person they apprehended turned out to be a private eye named Mike. Police investigations revealed that he operated a small detective business based in Denver. Under the bright, unforgiving lights of the interrogation room, his face was etched with exhaustion. Ms. Shepard's request had arrived 3 weeks earlier. Mike extended his hand to pick up the paper cup of water sitting on the desk. Initially, it seemed like a simple background investigation, but the request she made became more and more demanding. His statement during interrogation was unsettling. A request came from Pamela Shepard. He received $5,000 up front and promised an extra $10,000 for proof. He acknowledged he knew putting up surveillance was against the law, but the large sum of money clouded his judgment. Ms. Shepard wanted to know everything about my routine. The detective clarified to me, specifically, how you utilized the child support money and your interactions with your daughter. She wanted to collect evidence that could portray me as an inadequate parent. The things she said gave me a cold feeling. Pamela had been doubting how I parented, making plans to give Thomas all of Emma's custody. As a high-end real estate agent, she definitely had the money to employ a private investigator. Law enforcement did their job. Pamela got taken into custody immediately. They located her enjoying a fancy breakfast in her luxurious Cherry Creek district apartment. When they arrested her, she was perfectly made up and dressed in fancy designer attire. She didn't seem to understand how serious her situation was. I haven't done anything wrong. Pamela acted so full of herself during the questioning. I was planning to marry Thomas. We needed a real family for Emma's sake. What she said made me feel angry and shaky. Had she actually been considering Emma, or was my daughter just a way to get what she wanted? The following morning, when I went to get Emma from my mother's place, she ran right into my arms. I hadn't stopped thinking about her all night. What could I have done to keep this beautiful little girl safe? However, right then, I just wanted to be happy that we were safe. Mom, no more bad things happening. I gave Emma a definite nod when she asked that. It's all right now. Mom is always going to protect you. Later that day, Thomas showed up at the police station. He said he came right away when he found out that Pamela was arrested. His face was clearly exhausted. He looked like he hadn't taken care of himself, and his tie was askew. Rachel, I'm so sorry. Thomas looked directly at me. It's hard to believe Pamela would go that far. I really should have seen her true self. You weren't aware, regarding what she was planning. My tone took on a chilly edge. I really ought to have seen what she was truly like. You didn't have a clue. Without intending to, I'd swear. I promise I didn't know a thing. Thomas hid his face behind his hands. She just started discussing marriage, but I was unsure, primarily because of Emma. Afterward, she began to say things like, let's build an ideal family. A perfect family. A wry smile crossed my lips. Emma is content where she is now, I understand. Slowly, Thomas lifted his head. I've cut all ties with her. I was a complete idiot for not prioritizing Emma. Pamela got accused of severely violating privacy and stalking. The trial revealed that her need for everything to be perfect and her need for control were the reasons for all of this. Her worries about not having a child at 46, her constant anxieties, her obsession with Thomas as her perfect partner, and her deep-seated jealousy of me. These things had pushed her too far. I sometimes wonder if that woman was simply lonely. My mom thought out loud later, however, that's no excuse for harming others. A month after it all went down, the initial cold gusts of early winter swept through Denver. It was the day of Emma's ballet performance. Thomas, and Grandma sat together in the audience. Watching my daughter on stage in her pink costume, I started thinking back. This whole experience had given our family a newfound connection. I realized that Thomas and I could finally speak more openly. Emma, as well, appeared to comprehend in a very real way that her mom and dad would collaborate to keep her safe. It was a familial rebirth that materialized in a surprising way. Rachel, Thomas called to me while we were waiting for Emma to finish changing after the play. Starting today, I wanted us to be true co-parents. We needed to do everything possible for Emma. I gave a small nod. Beyond the window, the first snowfall of the year was falling gently. Sometimes the wind would pick up and move the snow around. The view reminded me of how things had been for us until this point. When Emma emerged from the dressing room, she had a single white rose. It was a present from her father. I felt like a fresh start was possible, seeing those spotless petals. Mom, Dad, did you see? I didn't mess up at all. Emma's eyes shone with an even brighter light. We walked home with our daughter right between us. This experience would stay in our hearts, not just as a scary memory, but as an event that solidified our family's connections.